Welcome to the All Things Circular podcast, your gateway to the circular economy. Hosted by industry experts Victoria Darcy and Rich Bolger. Every episode is proof that circularity isn't just good for the planet. It's a smart business decision. Our mission is simple: to empower, to inform, and to show you how to make the circular economy work for you.
Hello, welcome to another episode of All Things Circular. I'm Rich Bolger here with my good friend
Vic Darcy.
All right, Vic. Well, one of the things that we love doing is making new friends and learning new things. And you recently met a new friend. Would you mind introducing him to our audience?
So, everybody, please welcome my good friend, Ben Griffin. Ben from Asset Lifecycle Solutions. Ben, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks very much for having us both. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
So, poor Ben has been subjected to technical traumas. This is the very first guest we've had into the UK headquarters. And thank you for dealing with that with good grace.
Always. It's a pleasure.
And an emergency USB-C cable. So, Ben, first of all, thank you. And second, I really wanted to explain to our listeners how you and I met and kind of why you're here. So I think if I sort of give a quick 2 seconds and then we'll get you to introduce yourself and the business.
Okay.
So Ben and I met at a conference back in October, which was the ITAD conference. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Ben was on a panel and said a very bold statement, said, doing ITAD right. And of course, to somebody like myself who's been around a fair few ITADs, I challenged him and said, oh, okay, well, you know, what does doing ITAD right mean? We met, and then I went into to visit you guys, and I know I can confirm, you know, the business does do ITAD slightly differently. So, Ben, with that little opener, do you want to explain to us about yourself and about the business?
Yeah, no pressure. So, Ben Griffin, I'm the MD and owner of a company called Asset Lifecycle Solution, or ALS. Let's refer to it as ALS. It's a bit easier to say. We were a new ITAD in the UK. I've been in the ITAD industry for a while now. We started ALS just over 2.5 years ago now. We do ITAD differently. So we do ITAD right, as you say. It's a bit of a bold statement, so let me explain what I mean by it. But being in the industry for a while, I could see ITAD being done really well, and I could see ITAD being done not so well. And I had all these ideas about what I wanted to do, and we thought, well, let's do it ourselves. My background is aerospace and defence.
Uh-huh.
So loads around processes, procedures, legislation, and doing things right in the sense of getting it right first time and making sure that, you know, there's in the aerospace industry, you know, everything's written up and done properly. So there's never an accident. And we thought, well, we can bring a lot of that into the ITAD industry, which, you know, there are some ITADs that are doing it really well, but we thought we could do it a little bit differently. So security was our number one.
Yep. Physical security or data security or both?
Everything.
Yeah.
So the ADISA sign, or the ADISA group in the UK, was a big part of where we wanted to go, and I'll come on to that maybe in a little bit later. But we wanted to go down that route and get the highest sort of accreditation we could really quickly for 2 reasons. One, it's exactly what the why was about why we were setting up. We wanted to do things for big companies who wanted to get it right and have zero risk. And secondly, I didn't think it was actually that difficult. I didn't think doing it right was actually that hard. And a lot of people make a big hoo-ha about this, about how on earth can we do this and how can we do that. And actually, when you read it down, it's just what the client wants at the end of the day. So I didn't think it was that difficult. So that's why we wanted to go for the highest accreditation we could with security.
Hey, Ben, real quick, let me ask you a question. Just for some of the listeners to our podcast, some are new to reverse and circular that might not even know what IT Asset Disposition means. Could you briefly kind of go through and say, what does that mean and why would a business care?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So IT Asset Disposition or disposal, which are in the sort of ITAD industry. So we're involved in securely sanitizing data from redundant IT equipment, essentially. So we go into large businesses, we collect, or small businesses, any business that's really conscious about the data that they've got. We collect their equipment, we sanitize it, we do it both destructively and non-destructively, and then we give them a report to say how it's been done. So they've got the evidence, should anything ever happen, should they ever have a breach, God forbid, But they've got the evidence there to show that they've done due diligence, they've used a good company, they've used a company that was certified, and that they've done everything right, essentially.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I think
Yeah,
what's really interesting, sorry, Rich, is just to double click on something that you said as you were introducing that piece is, making sure things are right from the get go. And part of me wonders whether, we know there's good actors, we know there's bad actors, whether it's profitability and cost savings have been put ahead of security and put ahead of perhaps some of those processes. And you're quite right to draw the parallel to them and say, but it's what the customer wants.
That's right. I think there's two things to it. I think a company who doesn't do it right blames overheads, and this is going to cost me a fortune to do it right, and this is going to take loads of time and loads of effort. A company that does it right from the offset doesn't see that because they've planned that. So it's all built into the processes, the procedures, the staff training, you name it. It's all built into there. So it actually doesn't cost me anymore to do it right at all.
Yeah. Embryonic.
Yeah.
great. Yeah. In business, there's a couple things that are really important that most people don't think about. The first and most important rule I learned in reverse logistics is protect customer data always. Anything from a cell phone with someone's picture on it that isn't erased becomes a massive problem and can impact the stock price. Or if you're a business and you have customer information and you say, just get it out, and someone accesses that hard drive and tries to steal information from you, it's one of the biggest unknowns that exists, and unrealized threats to a business is the time that exists between when a product is unplugged and put out of use to the time that the information is securely erased is the threat. And then the business side of it is, well, hey, how much does it cost? What can I get for it? And usually the easiest thing for a company to do is just destroy, because they don't understand the value that can be derived and the secure methodology to get information off. So I love where you're going with it. So bring us into to how you do it and what sets you apart from other people that might be playing in the space.
Thanks, Rich. So as I mentioned the ADISA standard before. So we're ADISA Dial 3 with distinction, which is the highest accreditation we can get in the UK with ADISA. And we've got all sorts of other accreditations like 9001, 27001, 14001, and Cyber Essentials. And a lot of it we just reel off now because it's our original why of why we're going to set up and why we're doing this. We had all that mapped out on day zero. We knew exactly where we wanted to go. We didn't want to start doing things on a small scale, both physically. You've been to the unit. It's a big unit. But we also didn't want to start doing it and saying, actually, we can't do that standard. We can't quite do that. And making all sorts of excuses. If we're going to do this right, do it right from day one and just crack on with it. So suck it in, invest in it, and let's do it properly. And that's a big, if you know me personally, but well, I do things on a, if I'm going to do it, I do it properly.
Absolutely. It's a very northern way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I couldn't work for a business in my whole career who wasn't the best.
Yeah.
It's just not in me. I couldn't sell it. I couldn't really sit in front of somebody, in front of a client and say, oh yeah, trust us, we're the best at this when we're not. And now I sit back and it's quite, humbling, but I sit back and I go, yeah, we are.
Yeah.
We just recruited 2 new sales guys today. And, I sat down with them and I just said, this is a perfect sales pitch because you've got everything that you need. We're here to support you, but you've got every tool that you need now.
Well, you have. So as you mentioned, I have been in and seen the facility and met the team. And I think what's really impressive, and I'd really like you to explain to our listeners about this, is just the lengths that you've gone to build in at every stage for that customer, that journey of the asset, the reporting on it. And it's not just the security reporting, it's the actual, it's how it's traveled, the mechanism of how it's traveled, what route did it travel, and I think our listeners would be really interested in what doing ITAD right actually is and the granular nature that you've taken this to, because not very many people are doing that. In fact, I think you're one of the very few that are doing that.
Thanks. We do go to town on it, but so we started off by saying, well, what does the client want? I've mentioned this a couple of times. That's really important to us. There's no point in having a business that you think runs really well and you think is easy to run when that's not what the client wants. So we we went to a lot of clients and said, right, what would you look from the perfect ITAD? What would you absolutely need if this was a zero risk to you and you got that warm feeling every time someone picked your IT? What do you want? And then we stepped back and built it on that. So everything. So from the initial sign of the contract, we make sure everyone's got a DPA signed with us, data processing agreement, right? So everyone's got this signed up with us, so they know exactly how we're going to process the data, how we're going to pick it up, what we're responsible for, what they're responsible for. That covers from the UK GDPR point of view as well, which is really good. We then go out and collect it. We do site surveys on larger collections, and if we can't get a site survey done, we'll send one of the drivers in one day just to double check everything that's going on and really figure out, if there's any security risks or anything like that, we're going to pick it up. The vans are all GPS tracked, they're geo-fenced, they've got CCTV in the front, the back, the loading bay, so we can count assets coming on, count assets going off, and we know exactly where the vehicle is at all times. The vehicle never stays overnight anywhere. We're quite lucky, like yourselves, Rich, in the US, where it's a big area, but we've situated ourselves in the middle of the UK.
Yep.
We can get back from 99% of our locations without staying overnight. So we can make sure that even if it is a long journey, if we're doing Aberdeen or something like that, we go out, we'll stay the night before, pick up the equipment, get it straight back to the facility. And that's really important, that risk that you talked about there, Rich, where, it's that period between stopping using the device and having the device wiped. That's the biggest risk period. And we see clients storing it in cupboards for months and storing it in stock rooms for months. And we're like, this is your biggest risk point of view. Stop doing it. Just tell us to pick it up straight away and we'll come and get it. Then we bring it to the facility. The facility, as I say, is all part of this DAL 3 accreditation with ADISA. So that checks that, we've got perimeter fences and HD CCTV everywhere, access control, the staff are trained, you name it, we've got it all. But we cover it all.
Yeah, I've been through facilities where there's just been massive amounts of things sitting on a stock shelf, gathering dust, sometimes for decades. And people think, well, hey, just because it's in my walls, it's secure. But unless that information was removed upon or during the deinstallation or rip and replace process, having things sit on a shelf is dangerous and bad business. It's dangerous because things get stolen. If I was a bad guy and I wanted to go through and target a facility, and I probably shouldn't say this on a podcast, but I'm going to, I would go through and find the place that has information on hard drives and bribe their employees to take them.
Wow.
It's like if you go to a Silicon Valley and you try to leave your laptop in your car and you walk into a drugstore or to get a hamburger, by the time you walk in and walk out, your window is smashed and your laptop is gone. And it's not because laptops in Silicon Valley are more expensive than laptops in Fort Worth, Texas, or in Manchester in the UK. It's because people think the information on those laptops is worth so much more. So having them just sit on a shelf without treating them is dangerous. And then it's bad business because you lose value as things sit on a shelf. So urgency is important.
Absolutely. I think in my experience, there's two reasons why people leave them on the shelf. One, you're right with the security thing. They think it's in my four walls. I'm in control of it. I've got this covered. Secondly, is lack of education. I would say 70% of the clients that we talk to don't know what to do with it.
Do they know what they've got?
So they know what they've got. They know the information is sensitive, and that can be personal or company confidential. They know that. They've got that skill, and that's really good. But then what do I do with it? I know I want to get rid of it. I know I want to do the right thing with it. I know I want to sustainably dispose of it. But I also don't want that information getting out, and now I don't know where to go to. And I think there's so many contradictions when you start Googling this about what to do with it. Right, it's boggling for even me, and I understand it, and I'm in the business of it. So we love educating our clients on this by saying, right, this is really simple, but they've been told by a load of people this is really simple, and they just don't know where to go. So yeah, when we get those clients on board, it's about just proving that we'll take away that risk for you, and we can only do that with our accreditations and our service levels and things like that, and the reporting that you've seen. But I think they're the two main reasons why people stockpile it. I really do.
I think I've got a horror story actually about quite a large organisation who had e-waste. these e-waste crates. And they were putting, this is a big organization, they were putting hard disk drives and any of their internal IT equipment that they no longer wanted, it hadn't been wiped, into these open bins. And then because they were going to be, picked up and recycled, but the data was still intact. And it was really quite shocking. Like I say, the level of education or uneducation in that sense as to not thinking about what could be on those devices. But the very sort of lack of foresight to even put effectively an open container in. Yeah.
I think maybe you're right, Vic, as well. I think there's a lack of education about what is sensitive, and we speak to clients who say, "Oh, don't worry, we don't have any data on site. We're all cloud based." I'm like, what on earth does that even mean? It's not. Where do you think it goes from the cloud to get to your eyes? You buy that, it goes through a laptop or a desktop. It's being stored locally there. So yeah, there is a percentage of people who just don't understand that this is actually sensitive data and it can be recovered even after you've pressed delete. You might throw it in the bin, but anybody who knows what they're talking about with free piece of software can go and recover that data.
Absolutely.
So
Ben, you Rich, you were pioneering the use of electric vehicles where you can, in order to then provide a comprehensive report to your consumers, to your customers, really just about, it's not just about what happens with the asset and security and the value that's kept in the asset by treating it correctly. It's actually that you go deeper into that environmental story.
Yeah, so there's the whole sustainability pillar of what we're about comes second after the security to us. And not because we don't like it as much as security, but I think we're all in the same room here. Security is number one for all of our clients. And once we've got that right, then we look at other stuff. From a sustainability point of view, we've worked with an external company who's mapped our scope 1, 2, and 3 for every single collection. So when we drive to pick your equipment up, we track who picks it up, how they got to work in the morning, what vehicle they drove to work in the morning, how many miles we've done to your facility, how have we picked it up, what we avoided from landfill, what we've avoided and what we managed to put back into the circular economy. And then we give a sustainability report for every single collection, no matter how big or how small, which tells you the CO2 equivalent emissions that you've saved by using ALS and not putting this in landfill or treatment.
Yeah.
That's great. One of the fun things that always happens when Vic and I talk is she uses a new word that I just haven't heard before. The difference between the U.S. and the U.K. Last night, she was getting her daughter Oreo biscuits. And in the U.S., it's we just call them Oreos or Oreo cookies. But translation, because we've talked about ADISA a lot. And in the U.S., in order to go through and have an accreditation or certification or proof that you're doing the right things, there's a couple common here. R2 basically goes through and says that you are being environmentally responsible and you're treating customer information appropriately. So when you're looking at businesses, the R2 and the ISOs, the different certifications that exist underneath the ISO portfolio could point to information security and environmental security. Yeah. So when I was a younger director with less facial hair, and I started learning about the most important lesson, protecting customer information, and I had to start learning about what R2 and ISO meant. I learned it from the US perspective. And then when I got to Cisco, and I'm like, cool, we want to have all of our vendors be R2 or ISO. And then I started looking in the different parts of the world and they didn't exist. But ADISA was a lot more common in Europe. So talk to me about, and I remember when I was the CEO of my last company, going through and getting R2 and ISO certification was not easy. It was expensive. You had third-party auditors that came in to make sure that you were doing things right and checking your records. So the certifications are proof that you can do something, kind of like a college degree is proof that you can do work. Talk to me a little bit about how you went through and got the ADISA certification.
Okay, so ADISA is as you say, like, is our governing body in the UK around the ITAD industry, and it's the only ADISA standard 8 is the only standard that's approved by the ICO, and it's mapped to law as well, which is really important for us in the UK when we're trying to show UK GDPR compliance and things like that. It starts really early. In fact, for ALS, it started at day -1. When we chose the facility and we were choosing where to house ourselves, we thought, is this a secure facility? Is this going to pass? What level are we going to get here with ADISA? And I met with Steve Mellins at ADISA really early on to talk about what we could achieve and the sort of timescales that we could achieve it in as well. The ADISA standard in the UK, so they have something called the DIAL level, the Data Impact Assurance level. Data Assurance Impact level, DIAL level. And that's a set of 5 questions that you, the client, log on to, and you fill out these 5 questions. And then that tells us, the ITAD, the level of security that we should, the level of service that your data needs, essentially. So how critical is the data that we're sanitizing for you? And then we give you a service that's compliant to that.
Yeah.
It's really simple. If you as the client deem that your data is a Dial 3, you should only use a Dial 3 accredited ITAD. You can use one that's 1,
So
2 or
that's
3.
how it works. It maps the ITAD level to the requirement that you need.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're one of 7 ITADs in Europe with Dial 3.
Yeah.
So if you go through that Dial process and you fill out those questions and then it comes out that you're a Dial 3, you should use one of those 7 to do that. If you're a Dial 2, obviously you can use an ITAD that's Dial 2 or 3.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Okay. But that ADISA requirement is it's an all-encompassing standard, the Standard 8. It's really, I'm a big fan of it. I've been from the start of it. Steve knows it. I was a bit of a champion for it in my last place, and it's fully embedded in everything that we do. And as I said earlier, if you do it properly, I don't think it's that difficult. It's what the client wants anyway. It's what we should be doing. That's the thing that we have to get into all of our staff's head. This is not difficult if you're just doing it right, and you should never not be doing it right. So if you ever got that instance of, oh, this is right, stop, we'll do it properly. The ADISA standard covers everything from the initial onboarding of the client, so the contract, making sure the contract's legal and binding, to the way we collect the equipment, how we transport it back, the facility, the security around the facility, the access control, the staff training, the processes, the procedures, the way we sanitize it, which software we use to sanitize it, and then the reporting at the end. So it covers absolutely everything, the ADISA standard.
That's great. We should actually get Steve on at some point. I'm a huge fan. When Rich and I built the ITAD program at Cisco, actually, we did have in the contract for our European side, ADISA was in there as one of the requirements. We both are big fans, mainly because we both understand the importance of data security and physical security. The whole throughput.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the UK now, it is really the only standard that you can look to. There's nobody else that you can look to give you an all-encompassing standard. And we say to the clients, even if you're not going to use us for whatever reason, please go and use an ADISA Standard 8 certified business in the UK and other ITAD in the UK. If you're not going to use us, that's okay. We're not going to get offended by it. You'll come back. Yeah. But go and use another ADISA Standard 8 certified company.
Are you seeing a marked shift in the way that customers are getting and are approaching ITAD? Is there now more of a call for people with standards? Are you now seeing that education pass through to the asset owner level, for example?
Yeah, and I think you always get waves of this, and unfortunately, it always happens when something disastrous goes on. We've just had the cyber instances now with M&S and the co-op and you name it. And that always then brings the attention of actually what's going on with my old redundant kit while we're monitoring all the cyber attacks and things like that. Rich, you said quite rightly before that, I think it's the number is around 20-25% of data breaches actually happen from redundant equipment, redundant e-waste that we're getting rid of. That's where it happens. So it's okay to, put all these fancy firewalls and things like that. Of course, we've got to do it. But then if you're leaving your redundant IT kit in your store cupboard, as you said, Rich, then it's not a good thing. You've got to go and do something about that. So, yeah, I think currently at the minute, we're getting a lot of inquiries from clients saying, what do we do with this?
Yep.
How do I do it properly? And I think to go back to your standards point of view, it's our job to educate the client, and there's no easier way of doing it other than saying we're the best. And this is what you should look for in it. Now, if we didn't have any of those standards that we've got, I think we'd still do a very good job. But it's having that piece of paper just to give the client that peace of mind, just to say that somebody else, as you said, Rich, before, is coming in ADISA independently, unannouncedly. They unannounced audits. Let me
Yeah.
ADISA come in and they do at least one unannounced audit a year.
Yeah.
They don't give us any warning. They just turn up on the doorstep and they'll come round into the facility, have a look at how we're doing things. Are all the guys following processes and following procedures? They'll pick up a hard drive that we say we've sanitised and they'll go and check that it's been sanitised.
Yeah.
It's not a problem for us, but that it means that you can't ever let those standards sort of drop at all. Not that we want to, we're not in that business, but having somebody independently do it means that the client sort of says, well, actually, you're not marking your own homework here. You've got to do it.
But the standard remains credible. And that's
100%,
critical to that.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
That's good.
We had corporate auditors that would go out and they would check sites to make sure that they were adhering to the details within the agreement. And I can tell you in my experience, there were really no corporate auditors that even understood what they were looking at when they went into a reverse facility. But what got them excited was when there was an accreditation, being able to explain in my Army truck driver language, hey, listen, you might not need to know everything about this space, but I promise you these accreditations are more and better than what we could come up with if we sat in a conference room for a week. So go in, audit the auditors, see what they're looking at, the way that they're looking at it, leverage their pop-in inspections. That's why they have those types of accreditations.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Ben, thank you for coming in, but we're going to put you on the spot ever so slightly. If you've done your homework, you'll know that we ask all guests the same question as we draw our interviews to a close. And it's about myths in the industry. We've spoken a lot today, about some stories that we've all had and experienced, but being where you are and sort of, having come from the aerospace industry, having led ITAD elsewhere, is there a myth that, is in and around this industry that gets up your nose that you would like to dispel?
Oh, there's loads. There's tons. I could speak for England on this, but
It's up your nose.
Sorry, I got another.
There's another one.
We're going to throw loads in there for you, Rich.
I said bamboo. No, let's say bedraggled to him the other week.
I think I've got two, if I can.
Yeah.
I'll just really quick with the first one because you already mentioned it. Cost. So to do things right, it's going to cost me a lot of money. It's not correct. Use the right company who's doing it right every single time. It doesn't cost you anymore. That's first myth.
Yeah.
Right. And just by using a company where it seems cost effective to you, doesn't mean that they're not doing it the right way either. So that's the first one. Second one is around non-destructive sanitization. We see this a lot. And there's a load of stuff about this on the internet if you start looking at it. That if you are not an IT director, or you've not got a degree in IT, and you want to know how to destroy your hard drive, the most comfortable method to you would be to see it going into a shredder and coming out in tiny little pieces.
Oh, yeah.
No matter what your software background is, your hardware background, your IT skills in, to anybody, that looks like I'm destroying your data. Once you start knowing what you're talking about, I can equally sanitize it, if not better, I think, with software. And so actually doing it right from a sustainability point of view and reusing that hard drive or that SSD or that media after we've non-destructively sanitized is exactly the same. Yeah. So it's getting over that myth a little bit.
So glad you brought that one up because we work in and around with hyperscalers. And certainly, some of the big ones, they have a mandate, which is a destroy mandate on all hard drives. And it's nobody wants to be the person that changes the mandate. I think that's a piece of fear in there from the, from the business. But you're absolutely right, because there's different types of software that will wipe a drive, whether it be a hard drive or a solid state drive. There's different passes, but they're coming out with new pieces of software all the time. And actually, these things can't now be retrieved. The data, it's impossible to retrieve this data once it's been put through.
As long as you're using the right software.
Yes.
Because you buy loads of pieces of software out there which will say they'll do it.
Yes.
Have a chat with Steve Mellon about this when you interview with ADISA, because there's loads that don't.
Okay.
Yeah,
so use an independently certified piece of software. And ADISA do a really good job of actually certifying software packages as well.
Yeah.
So you can go to people like Common Criteria and people like that who are used all over the world. But ADISA do a similar instance, but they'll actually certify the software as well for you. And you need that independent certified. So when I'm saying, listen, I want a NIST purge on this, or I want, HMG IS5, whatever it is that you're demanding from the software, it's actually going ahead and doing it.
Yeah.
So you went through and you brought up NIST, National Institute of Science and Technology. They've got a document 888-R that tells people what appropriate data destruction is, and there's really 3 levels. Yeah. There's destroy, hitting it with a hammer, or chipping it. There's clear, which means going through and using the erasure command on the device and logging that it took place. That could be pressing a button, waiting for the light to go blink 3 times, and writing it down in a notebook. And purge, where the information is overwritten to make it infeasible or impractical to be able to go through and recover. And what some of these softwares do, there are some softwares that will certify purge level if the manufacturer certifies and approves it. There's ones that could do clear, but what I love about some of the software is not only will it go through and erase the device, auto log and timestamp when that occurred. The good ones will go through and check the drive or check the device and make sure that it's back to factory default information level. So if it is reset on a home screen or in base configuration, there should be a memory load that takes place. And if you go through and you pass it from one place to another and you electronically transfer the certificate, upon plugging in, you don't need to clear it again. You could validate that it's still in that base memory configuration and cut many cycles off the time to go through and improve the value by making it easier. So love this talk. I geek out over data erasure.
Sorry. I can see my wife's eyes rolling right now as I'm talking about.
I've learnt not to.
We're going back to biscuits.
Well, I have to be interested. I am interested. It is a critical part, particularly with hard drives, because we are behind in sustainability on hard drives. So
yeah, we are, and I think we are behind, and we can do loads of it. And there's companies in the US and over here in Europe as well who are making real big significant moves now to say, listen, this is daft.
Yeah,
the days of having a shredder by the door and shredding it, hopefully, are sort of coming to an end, really. But it's still surprising how many people say, listen, I just want it shredding.
Well, it's interesting because you would used to go around recyclers and the first thing they'd show was, look at my shredder.
We've got a shiny shredder as well. But you have to have a shredder because there's a percentage that will fail the erasure. If a sector of a disk is faulty, then we can't erase all those sectors of the disk. So, we have to shred it, but it should be the second option.
Yeah.
And normally, when you get to a good IT director or a good ICO and you talk to them about this and you say, listen, this is how it works, they go, right, I completely understand, we'll rewrite our processes around this. It's when they haven't got that education or they haven't got that knowledge base that it's really difficult, and the default just is, I don't know what you're talking about, but that shredder looks cool.
Yeah.
And that's just going to shred it in tiny little pieces. How can anybody get off that tiny little piece? And they're right to a certain degree, but I've seen it where the shredder, we could lose a hard drive maybe that was being shredded or something like that. Who knows what's gone on? I can give you a report for it, but with the software tools, that cannot happen. It's reading the serial number, it's reading the device manufacturer directly off that. The report that you get, as you said, Rich, that report is very, very thorough.
Yeah.
It's just as thorough as destruction, but that's exactly what I'm saying. It's just as good. Yet we get to reuse that drive. We get to do a bit of good with the IT, and I think that sort of brings me on to the last bit that, if I can mention the last bit of a pillar to ALS, which is our social value, which is, you've been to our place.
I have, yeah. I've seen the tree.
A huge blossom tree and things like that on the wall and stuff like that. So, we believe in doing a bit of good around this. The UK, and in fact, all over the world, has got a huge problem with people not being able to access the internet and digital poverty and things like that. And I think we do a really good job of doing this. So we're working with loads of councils, healthcare, charities, individuals, you name it, where we're managing to sustainably wipe this kit, refurbish it, and then get it back into the circular economy, not just to resell it and make some money, which is what we're all about at the end of the day, but it's to do a bit of good as well. So, we're constantly donating kit to charity, and that's the bit where you can then get the buy-in from these clients that you're doing the right thing with their kit. And it sort of brings me back to what we first started on, though, where the client is really scared about what to do with it. You know, we onboarded a new client just this week. And he told me that, you know, we've been storing this up in a cupboard for ages because we wanted to make sure it's securely wiped, but we also want to do a bit of good with it. They're really good laptops. We can do something with this. And then suddenly now they're using us and they're like, right, this is fantastic. We've got all these high accreditations and you're going to donate 1% of it away back to charity again. And it's their charity that they've chosen as well. And it's really important to us. It's the last but fundamental part about what we're all about, really.
But I think that is the circular economy beautifully put, right? Because it is about the next life of an asset. And that next life of an asset, yes, if we can make money and make profit on it, you know, that's how the world works. But ultimately, there are second, third, fourth lives for equipment that maybe don't have the value. And, you know, perhaps it's not economically viable to, you know, make them up to a grade where, you know, where they can be resold. And the donation market is... you know, is certainly one which I think it doesn't get its time in the sun, and it should.
I've often said that
sorry,
the circular economy.
Say that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, satellite delay will blame. But I was just going to say that, you know, myself and Christy, my wife, who run ALS, that I think, and to everybody in ALS, that's the bit that gives us a smile as we go to bed at night. And that's the fantastic bit, that we've managed to do a bit of good with this IT at the end of the day, you know, because it's a bit of a geeky, boring industry. To go away and give it to a kid who's not had access to the internet for 6 months and say, right, okay, I've got you access to a laptop here now, you can do your homework on it. You go home feeling fantastic about yourself. It's good.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, most business leaders would say out loud, I want to do what's right for the environment and smart business. Not a lot of people know how to do it. So, Ben, if people want to reach out and find out a little bit more about you and ALS, how do they find you?
Okay, so we're all over LinkedIn, so give me a follow, give ALS a follow. So assetlifecyclesolutions.co.uk. So assetlifecycle.co.uk as well. You can find me on LinkedIn, give me a connect. I'm happy to connect to anyone and give you as much information as you need.
Oh, well, thank you. Ben, thank you so much for coming in. Welcome to be the first guest in the studio.
Thank you very much. And thanks for having us, Rich.
No, it's wonderful. And it's so good to be back in the recording seat. So yeah, thanks.
Good stuff.
Well, that's the first episode of this new round locked in. So Ben, thank you. I've been Vic Darcy.
And I'm Rich Bolger. And have a great day.
Thanks all. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in. Please head over to allthingscircular.com to learn more.